So, good afternoon. Welcome to episode 3 of Prop Up the Bar with Chief and Goat. It's a bit different today. As you can see, there's someone else on the screen with us, someone that you won't have seen before. This is our good old university friend, Kyle Woolf. How you?
Hello. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, mate. It's been a long time.
It has been a minute, hasn't it? It's been, well, I think the last time I saw you was at your birthday. Was at your birthday party in 2015, I believe, when you were living in the house that I used to live in a couple of years before. So I roll out the court. What house 14?
House 14. What a house! And also, that means every single person on this call has stayed in house 14.
Oh shit!
I moved in third year.
Wow.
Not that they knew I was moving in. That was covered in episode 1. But,
episode 1 had that.
Episode 1 had that. We aired that out a little bit. It was a bit of a Moses basket moment where I turned up on the front door saying I was moving in, and Tom did not know who I was. But yeah, we've all lived there.
Because they did do, there was Luke and Kestrel, they did do the thing where if you didn't have the correct number of housemates, they'd choose someone for you. So you were the add-on, were you?
No, I think they were trying to find one person to move in, and I knew Craig Gibbons, who's in that house, and a few other. I knew Ash as well, but Craig mentioned to me that they were looking for someone, and then I just kind of went down, paid without really telling them, and just saying I'm moving in, and here we are now. As we've said, it wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't be doing this now if we'd not moved in together and had some wild times. But yeah, it was good fun.
You're like the parent on a family sitcom who just turns up at their son's house, saying and now they have to live with them. Is that kind of the situation?
Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah.
It definitely was, and he did bring presents, which is kind of typical of that sort of dad on the.
You never turn up to someone's house without bringing a gift, or like booze or whatever.
I was the gift.
the gift that never gave. Not the gift that's not given, just never gave.
You couldn't return.
Yeah, I'd signed on the dotted line. There was no kicking me out after that, as much as Tom did try.
Yeah. So we had a bit of fan interaction the other day. I don't think I've told either of you. I had some messages. Dan's looking very confused. I had some messages. We don't play music on the show, so I can't play the music. But we had a lot of requests for Jerry and the Pacemakers. So we had a guy called Jurgen Klopp email us, wanting to hear Pacemakers, You'll Never Walk Alone. A guy, I think his tag was Stevie G. We had King. We had a few people who say, sorry we can't, but I would like to give a round of applause to my little Liverpool football team. Currently, we're recording on the 27th of June, and yesterday I took half a day's annual leave because my computer wasn't really working, but it did mean I finally got to celebrate a little bit more, watching kind of highlights of. I'm not going to lie, I'm slightly hungover, which is why I've got Timothy Taylor landlord to my left to keep me going. This at midday, but so that's literally all my news for the week. So we could stop the podcast now, but I feel like it'd be a bit of a waste to get you on.
Yeah. We don't want it just to be a Liverpool appreciation podcast. We've got Kyle here for a reason. We should probably it should be all about Kyle.
I tell you what. Yeah, I tell you what. If we get this podcast to 1,000 listeners, I'll get Liverpool shaved into my beard.
Oh, please.
1,000 listeners. Actually, no. Kyle's got quite a big following. 2,000 listeners. 2,000 listeners from my beard. I'm hoping you can edit that out, Chief. Yeah, I mean, I said we know each other from uni, but tell us a little bit more about yourself, Kyle. What do you do?
So my day job is I work in a school and do behaviour and learning support for teenagers, and it's an elementary secondary school. But at night, stand-up comic.
Stand-up comic. I mean, with no offence, I love teachers. My mum's a teacher, my sister's a teacher. I didn't get you on to talk about schools.
No.
I wanted to hear about how you got into comedy, why you got into comedy, and what's it like. It's
Well, how I got into it. Well, I've been doing performing. I've been doing performing since I was about 3 to 5 years old. So I got to music class, played violin, and that got really heavily into drama. Like when I was in secondary school, and so much so that at one point I was about 13 or something. My parents actually signed me up for a drama class on a Sunday morning, and didn't really want to go because being a teenager, blah blah blah. And also at that point, I was quite heavily into church, so I went to church every Sunday as well. I went to the drama school for a couple of weeks, and I really enjoyed it. But then I realised I hadn't told my priest. So one Sunday morning, one Sunday morning, I walked up to church and I said to the priest, "This isn't even a joke. This is genuinely a true story. I don't want to do this anymore, and I'm going to drama school, and I'm leaving the church." And from then on, I went to drama school, and I got involved in a lot of plays at school, and from doing a lot of improv in plays, I kind of had the performance bug. But then at uni, I kind of like let it slip, I guess, for some whatever reason. So I didn't perform or anything for the 3 years at uni. Sorry.
Yeah, I can tell you why you let it slip.
Why?
Beer. It was drinking.
It was it was definitely. Do you know what? Yeah, that's it. That's definitely it. And also there was the wanting to kind of leave my teenage self behind, if that makes sense. But I remember in about 2018, I was thinking to myself, what's the scariest thing that I could do that I haven't done yet? And I remember a conversation in sixth form with someone who said that the scariest thing that they thought that they could do was standing up, trying to do comedy and no one laughing. I was like, okay, I'm going to try that. So I got myself down to, I looked online and I saw that there were actually comedy courses that you could take. And I thought, you know what, this would be a laugh for, well, if nothing else. So I paid the money and I started a comedy course, and I really liked the first lesson. And it turns out that at the end of every comedy course, they do a showcase at the end of the 8 or 10 weeks of Harvard, right? And I thought, I don't want to bomb at the showcase. Yeah. So after the first lesson, I just started taking myself off to open mic nights and signing up. And from doing that, I just caught the bug, and I'm continuing doing it today.
Has there ever been, it was a great story for getting involved in comedy there, and you said that it came from the fear of someone at sixth form. Has there ever been a room that hasn't really got you comedy? Has there been a time where you've stood there and you've got a laugh?
I did, me and some friends, we did a full run at the end of a Fringe last year, right? And the room that we got, I'd highly recommend, if anyone wants to ask what room it is, I'll tell you, and I highly recommend everyone do it, because you will learn how to be a comedian in that room, right? It was literally in the middle of a bar, no back room. It was literally, you're standing up in front of the bar, doing your stuff, whilst everyone else at the bar still operating and things are still going on around you, right? It was absolutely harrowing. And some of the seats, right, were facing, because they're, Wetherspoon's booths, right?
Yeah.
They were facing away from you. So you were literally performing to some people with their backs to you.
Oh, wow.
And one show went so bad that I had to really stop and count the amount of shows that had gone well up until that point. And it turns out over half had gone well. So I was like, okay, it's not gone too bad.
So was it an improv show?
No, it's stand-up.
Oh, was it stand-up? It was stand-up.
Stand-up comedy. I respect anyone that does improv, but for me, at this point, I was just like, nah, not for me. But no, it's always been straight stand-up, even though improv is something that's in my background.
Yeah. Was that your first time at Fringe ever, or had you been as
Yeah, literally my first time. I think, yeah, it was my first time. It was literally my first time at the Fringe, and it's honestly the best. It was honestly the best experience. I mean, it's like university but for comics, because you go in there, you're learning, and you're paying a lot of money, and you go in there and you're learning your trade, and you're learning how to market yourself, and you're learning how to build networks of other comics and other promoters and stuff. I don't know how the Fringe is going to look now after everything that's happened, because I think it's going to be a little while before people want to start getting back into dingy basements and be cramped together. But yeah, it was the best experience ever, and I'm really upset that I couldn't do it again this year.
Yeah, no, I get that. And you always hear, because listen to other podcasts and stuff, you always hear stories from Fringe and accommodation woes and weird friendships.
Oh, do you know what? Oh, accommodation. My landlord was brilliant. I mean, my landlord was absolutely brilliant. It was the washing machine broke when I was out, and so the fireman actually come down, break down the door, and stop the pipe from leaking, because it was leaking downstairs and everything. And I thought, oh, that's my deposit. But no, it wasn't. He was completely cool with it.
Sound.
Which kind of tells me that this has happened before.
Yeah, which makes me think that's a dodgy washing machine. He probably needs a new washing machine as a cheap doing
a bit more tape on it, and it'll be all right.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But yeah, you do get a lot of people go there people who aren't performers. They're the ones that are making the money. So the renters, the landlords, the people, the companies that you're going up performing the show for, they're the ones making money. You're not. You're there for privilege, essentially.
Yeah. No, I get that. I've never done it. I've always wanted to go and see Fringe, because you do get some people just trying that material as well. People that are known, and then there's people like yourself who are not new to the scene now. Really, are you? You've been on a few years, but then you will.
I'm still definitely new. Like, until I'm about 10 years in, I'm still going to say that I'm a new. I'm definitely new. Because I'm only, like, I'm in my third year now, but I've also not been doing it for about 3 months because of COVID. So when I go back, I'm still going to be relearning the ropes.
Yeah, that's true. What's the dream?
What's the dream? I think the dream is to be able to maybe not support myself through comedy, but even though that'd be nice, but be a well-enough known name on the circuit that I can go to all the big clubs. Maybe not be on TV or whatever, but just to be consistently gigging on the circuit with decent clubs.
Yeah.
And also obviously there's a whole writing a memoir potentially, and if I can write a sitcom or write something for TV, then that'd be great as well. But the main thing is just keep doing stand-up comedy and just be a name in the circuit.
Well, yeah. If you do end up writing a sitcom, I know someone that is very good at being a typecast for a fat bald bloke. So if you want to write a fat bald bloke into your sitcom, let me know. It might not be the picture you're looking for, but
I can't think where I find one of them.
I don't know. Who knows where you'd find one of them?
A fat bald man who's left of centre, right? Is that what kind of thing that we're talking?
Kind of. That is the position, yeah.
Okay, that's the position. All right. Okay.
Maybe you want to say he plays rugby. Maybe lives in Nottingham. Whose telephone number is 07559.
Used to live in Kent, right? Used
to live in Kent, very true. Born in Bristol. There's a massive story.
We built a character there.
There's a fat bald bloke who plays rugby, grew up in Kent. I'm going to be like, that's me. He's based it. I'd be more excited for that than being in it. I'd be like, is someone playing me? That's the question. If you, Chief, if someone was writing a film about you, who would you want? Okay, who would you want to play you, and who realistically would play you? Two different questions there.
I think I've got it.
If you want, I think I'd like Russell Crowe to play me, just because I think he'd look relatively similar, bald head with a beard. I have been walking down the street before, and people do come up and ask for autographs. Think Russell Crowe. I'm more Russell Dodo than Russell Crowe, but struggle to fly now. But I think realistically, if I could, back in the day, I would probably have picked James Corden just because he's similar humour to me, but now he's way too big. I think realistically, Barry from EastEnders. Probably, that's probably what I'm aiming for now.
Me, I'd probably say Richard Ayoade.
Yes, what a guy!
Shout.
What a guy! He's incredible.
Richard Ayoade, but more likely the little kid with the afro from Diversity.
Yes. Can you do the flip as well?
I fucking wish, man. Do you know how many people asked me that? Like from circa about 2008 to 2010.
Can you do the flip? Go on, Chief. You must have someone you'd like to play.
The first name that came to mind was Matt Damon to play me.
Matt Damon. I can kind of see it.
See?
He's got a massive forehead as well.
It's all in the forehead. I don't know who realistically though. I'm gonna open that up to you because I feel like you'll probably have some ideas.
Sorry, I've just pulled my really badly there. Who would realistically?
Yeah. Tom Hanks? No? Tom Hanks? No?
Me. I want to play you in a sitcom.
Okay.
I'd like to play you. Or, I don't know, maybe Joe Exotic, because you obviously like letting wildlife into my house. That's a reference to an old episode where Dan let an ostrich into the house in Catskill. The pigeon. I don't know. It was massive. So maybe because Joe Exotic is like animals. You like animals. It's the only link. He's a man.
I'll probably go realistically. I don't know the actor's name, but one of the guy in the in-betweeners that everyone's just forgot about.
What, Neil?
Yeah, probably. Neil. Probably. I want Matt Damon, Neil. Probably.
I think Simon, whoever plays Simon, I can't remember his name now, it was in my head. But you're more
Joe Thomas.
Joe Thomas, that's his name. You look more of a Simon.
Yeah, definitely.
And you probably do like to spark your hair up.
I'd probably say Jonathan Lipnicki. You know the kid from Jerry Maguire?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, but he's grown up now and he does look a little bit like him now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take them all.
Yeah, definitely. I'll take him. So I think what we should do is, just before I ask you, get onto a different topic, I've decided to write a bit of a quiz. So Chief versus Kyle. It's going to be closest answer wins. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions. I'm going to ask, obviously, guest go first, ask the guest first, and then ask Chief to give me an answer. The closest wins. There's 5 questions, so we can't have a draw. So I couldn't think of a tiebreaker, which realistically is the 5th question. But there we go. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, for content, this is quite close. But I've been on lots of quizzes with Chief. This could be a 5-0 battery, if I'm honest. So, question 1. How many quills, there's no theme to this, by the way, how many quills does a Northern American porcupine have? A quill is a spike, Dan.
It was a pen.
I didn't. Yeah, I knew that. How many spike quills?
300 was my answer.
We were going to Kyle first, but that's fine. Chief, that's fine. Just butt in with your answer.
250.
250. So the answer is, on average, actually 30,000. That does go point to Chief. I know. I saw that, and then I had to check it on another website because I was like, "That's pretty. That's a big porcupine." But supposedly 30,000.
Insane.
Listeners, answers on a postcard. If you disagree with me, I probably won't respond. Chief. So, in miles, how long is Route 66? Closest mile. I don't need 0.5 or whatever.
1,000 miles.
Again, we weren't going to you first.
You said Chief.
Yeah, you did say him, to be fair.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Fair play.
This one, I'll
What did
take
you
the
say?
first one. But
1,000 miles.
yeah,
Okay.
999 miles.
The answer, I can't believe it's happened. It's 2,448, so 2,448 miles.
I like the tactic though, Kyle. I do like the tactic. Just, if you think it's lower, just go one lower.
That's
a
it.
great
That's what I
tactic.
do.
Yeah, only if you've gone one higher. Okay, so this isn't in the thousands. How many number ones did the Beatles have, Kyle?
How many number ones? Was it? It wasn't high. It wasn't a high number. It was around about 10, wasn't it?
10? Chief?
I'm going to steal his tactic and go 11 because I think it's higher.
So, out of roughly at least 114 songs, they had 17 number ones.
Okay.
Considering how...
That's still not good enough, to be fair. Have you seen 8 Days a Week, the documentary? Really, it's Ron Howard who directed it, and it's really, really worth watching. I mean, it's fucking long. It's like 2.5 hours long, but it is really worth watching.
Well, at least it's not 8 days long. That would have been... It would have been beautiful, irony, but it would have been awful.
I'm not gonna lie, I think I fell asleep through like some of it, but other than that, it is worth watching.
It holds up.
I've got to that stage in life where laying on the sofa watching a film, quite often wake up with a whiskey balancing on my gut at 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so Chief is 3-0 up. So Carl, you can't win. Actually, no, the last question is going to be worth 5 points. So,
we're doing points now. Okay.
yeah. So question 4 is still for a point. If laid down on the floor end to end, in kilometres, how long would the shard be? Dan, what are you trying to do in hands? 1, 2. It's a lot more than I thought.
I'd say 400.
400.
Wait, no.
I think you should change that answer.
Yeah. Sorry. 10.
10. Chief?
I've got 2.5 in my head, so 2.5.
2.5 kilometres. So the answer is 13.7. So Kyle gets a point. So it's 3-1.
I'm in the game.
Yeah. 13.3 kilometres. Like,
I don't want to go up a building, which is 400 kilometres end to end.
No. 400
I think
kilometres.
that may literally be. Yeah, that may literally have been the stairway to heaven, which was 400 kilometres ago. Last question for 5 points. Kyle, I'm giving you a lifeline here. Obviously, God Save the Queen lives in Buckingham Palace, but how many rooms are in Buckingham Palace?
Oh, Jesus.
To the closest whole room. Just in case they have half rooms. I don't know.
50.5. No, 50.
50.5 rooms.
Yeah.
Chief.
86.
So the answer is actually 775 rooms.
What?
So Chief wins.
What?
Also, I hope, I mean, I don't want to be taken to the Tower of London, but just saying bedroom tax. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
All I'm saying. I'm not pointing fingers or anything. I'm just saying that's the... So from Buckingham Palace bedroom tax to something a lot more serious.
Yes.
Obviously, we're friends, Kyle, and I look a lot at your Instagram posts and your stories and what have you, just to see if
I can't think where this is going, Tom. I have no idea where this is going.
So, for probably the people that already know Kyle, and probably some people that follow you in your journey anyway, you are very, very passionate, naturally, obviously, about the Black Lives Matter movement. It's been at the front of the media for a long time. It's kind of slipped off a bit, which is, again, something you've picked up on your story.
Yeah.
But obviously, we would never understand. So what, in your eyes, obviously it's important, what is the most important thing we should be learning from this, and what kind of, are there anything you want to openly talk about?
I just think that more conversations need to be had without there being a national debt, an international outcry causing those conversations. All right, it's great the conversations are happening now, but people have been trying to have those conversations for years, but other people haven't been really wanting to listen until now. So I think that one thing good that has come out of this whole situation is that people are now starting to listen, but it'd be good if they had listened before an international outcry. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it is a sad reality that, especially in the Westernized world, tragedy has to happen for us to kind of not acknowledge it, because I think a majority have acknowledged the issues that are there. But you're right, the conversations. What experiences have you had on the set then from it? Have you ever had any bad experiences while doing the circuit? And
nothing particularly whilst I've been on the circuit. I've had stuff happen to me like over the years. I get stopped by police for no reason, and there was one time when I was about 17. I was working away from home, and I didn't really think of it as anything too much until about a couple of days after the incident happened. Someone that I was working with, he was pissed off at a manager for some reason. And then he turned to me for no reason and went, "You look like a minstrel, make me laugh." And I had and it didn't really, in my head, because I was 17 years old, I was like, minstrels are just chocolates. Why is that funny? But then I remembered, like, as a couple of days went on, like, the black and white minstrel, that was a racist comment. But by that time, he'd been fired anyway, so it didn't really matter.
Okay.
I've had people not say stuff directly to me, but feel like they can be comfortable, because I'm quite light-skinned. They feel like they can say certain things around me, which I've had to call people up on, and that's not okay. That's not okay either. I just think generally the conversation just needs to really needs to keep on going. That's all I can really say, because I don't really want to be the guy that says, this is what you need to do, this is the book you need to read, because there's so many books out there, there's so many films out there that people learn from. Like, you don't need me or anyone else to really tell you to go see these films. They're there for you to consume anyway, if that makes sense.
100%. And it's just one of the times I do often have to pinch myself and go, not just because of the COVID situation, but I'm like, why are we still having these conversations in 2020? It's like we're progressing in everything, technology, medication, everything, but views is just something that people just, and sadly, there will always be different views. And although I think I'm right on everything, there are going to be views that are in normal life, and also there's going to be people who sadly are racist, homophobe, anti-Semitic, anything like that. There'll always be people like that, but it's the education, isn't it? You're right, it's conversations, and it's something that actually...
But what we'll say is, what has been quite good to see was on the news and at the protest, the amount of white people that have been there. So something is changing. Whether the conversation is going to stay, I don't know, and I honestly don't think it will stay. I don't think it will keep going very long. But the fact that that's happened is something quite positive.
Yeah, definitely. And there's been many people comment on the BLM movement, and obviously, like, there's so much more we could speak about. But in your position, obviously, as you are on stand-up, if there is a young man or woman who is in the BAME group and they want to get onto the circuit, they want to get into some form of performance, what is the advice, or advice to anyone, but what would you advise?
I'd say just advice to anyone, like, once the circuit does get up and running again, if you're going to do it, don't say you're going to do it, just do it. Because it's one of those things where if you just keep saying that you're going to do it today, you're going to do it the next day, then you'll never do it. Just get up, go online, find an open mic night, and get on stage, essentially. And hopefully by the time we get back, the comedy circuit will be in a much better place than it was, because I'll be honest, because there's been, like, in the last few days, there have been a lot more women speaking out about the abuse that they've received on the circuit by certain comedians and certain promoters. So hopefully, once the circuit actually does reopen again, all those people, well, the majority of them will have lost their position, and it'll be a much nicer, safer place for everybody.
Yeah, and comedy is probably one of, from just off the top of my head, one of the most diverse in the public eye, isn't it, really?
In the public eye, that's the key point. In the public eye, it's the most diverse. It is the most diverse, one of the most diverse areas of entertainment. However, behind the scenes, like in writers' rooms for sitcoms or like the panel shows or whatever, it's probably one of the least diverse. From what I've heard from other people who've written for certain, I'm not going to name any panel shows names, I don't get sued, but who've written for some of the big panel shows and the hardships that they face happened in trying to get their stuff on the air.
Sadly, I can see that. Yeah. I'm not in that well, but it does kind of it's clear that is still there.
What's ironic is that comedy is meant to be this left wing euphoria and this left wing paradise, when really that's just the face. That's just the face of it.
Yeah, and it's very easy because comedians themselves.
Not left wing, sorry, not left wing. Inclusive. I should say, because you can be right wing and inclusive as well. But inclusive.
Yeah. And there aren't actually. I think about the comedians who are in at the forefront of the public eye, like Jimmy Carson. There's very few who I can't see other people relating to, if that makes sense. Obviously, I don't relate to people like Sam Millican because I would never do that because of just with different people. But there are people like that would, and that's kind of the attraction of comedians, isn't it? Is the politicalness of it and how diverse and whatever it is. Do you want to give us a quick 1 minute promo about the stuff you're doing, what's happening next? Because we're on Zoom and it's going to run out.
Okay. So even though stand-up comedy is dead, I've still got my podcast, which is going on, which is still continuing, which is called The One Where, and it's where I interview comedians about themselves and about a sitcom or a film of their choice, and it's going quite well. And there's about nearly 100 episodes in. We've got some really big people on the circuit and some people that you'll never have heard of, which are going to be which will hopefully be your new favourite comics if you put them up.
Wow, I mean, you're hilarious anyway.
Thank you.
You're my mate, but it definitely is worth a listen. It is funny, and you are literally one of the nicest guys I've met. That's why I was very keen to get you on when we came up with the idea of the podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be the first guest.
No, I mean, and hopefully this will not be the last time we see you on Prop Up the Bar.
No.
Hopefully that will be a regular for us.
Well, what will hopefully happen is once lockdown's completely over, we'll be having a drink in Nottingham sometime.
We should do. And like I've mentioned before, there are YouTubers who accept gifts and open them. If any listeners would like to send money for me, Chief and Kyle, to have a drink in the Goosey Plus Wetherspoons, we are happy to accept that money. Just saying. But we normally call last orders at this time because we like a good pun on Prop Up the Bar. So last orders. Thank you very much for today, Kyle. It's been it's great hearing the experience you've gone through. It's nice to see an insight of someone who's in the comedy world, and also the Black Lives Matter movement as well. So I know that's something that you are very passionate about, and a lot of people are. So thank you for that. But next week on the pod, we're going to delve back into some of the stories we've had, and we'll just kind of playing it by ear. There's a few special guests lined up as well. So they'll be coming out in the next few weeks. So follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube. It's Pop Up the Bar with Chief and Gate. For now, so long, farewell, and auf Wiedersehen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.